Everybody's first. In the agenda, the first item is call to order, which I'm doing. Second item is public speak. Anyone? I'm going to go real quick. Anyone?
I'm kidding, I'm kidding.
Okay. 3, discussion and possible action on the draft charter report. So what I would like to do is, I'll go first for the Board of Selectmen. I was also on the Charter Revision Commission, and I just want to express what was done so everybody understands. The majority of these items that are done were not what I wanted done. I had a different agenda, knowing that we needed to move a Charter Revision Committee to get on the November election ballot so that we have the majority of the town residents that would come and would vote, yes or no. Because in my mind, when we do these types of things, it's appropriate to go to referendum and to have the greatest number of residents that can vote on a subject that's going to impact the entire town. It's very important because a town meeting, while it's great, it's 50 people who really do, and I agree with Mr. and Mrs. Hutchinson, and when she says those are the people who are committed that come to the town meetings. But we have a town of 2,500 residents and voters that we sit there and have to include. Now, what I wanted done was a town council form of government. The Charter Revision Committee chose not to take that up, which I'm okay with. I do believe there would be a better form of governing the town where you take a 7-member board, combine the Board of Finance and the Board of Selectmen, and you allow one board who hopefully you get 7 good committed people to sit there and deal with the finances and the direction of the community. That's what I wanted to do. That got taken off the table. Now, what we did and what happened is, as Eric well positioned these like and these would be the questions on the ballot that would go in some manner. I'm not detailed, I'm just giving you generalizations. November elections makes sense. You know, we need to be in November elections. The town clerk moving from elected to appointed makes sense. We could vote yes or no on that. Ordinances, slightly more confrontational, but it's giving the board that you elected at the position within town to create ordinances, and then we worked as a committee and bent over backwards to try to make the petitioning process as easy as possible for the residents. And we didn't, you know, the whole goal ended up being efficiency so that we wouldn't redo things and we wouldn't call out community members to come to meetings over and over and over again. Because we as a board could sit there and say, we want a special meeting all the time. And we're dragging you out all the time. That's not what we want. You guys don't want to come to these meetings all the time. So we were attempting to try to get these to push into a referendum at the 2 major elections. Now, one thing I will agree with Mrs. Hutchinson, the older Mrs. Hutchinson, 10%, I can live with taking that out. I can tell the rest of the board, I can live with taking 10% out of the elected number, because you should always have more than 10% because we're consolidating the budget votes. That's what also one of the functional things we're doing is consolidating the budget votes so that both budgets are voted on at the same time. You should get more than 200 people at that election. But if you don't, and there's an ordinance on it, fine. Up or down 50%, yes or no, I get it. So I would agree with that point. The financial thresholds, which is the other item, we're running a town with an operating budget of $4 million. And if you look at the town, it's $4 million for the town, $4 million for AES, and $4 million for RAM. The thresholds are extremely low, and they call for town meetings to be called when we don't hit those thresholds. So we're just bumping them up slightly, right? We're not taking any of the financial issues away from the town meeting, still having a town meeting. The only thing that we're dealing with is as soon as the town meeting is over and the town meeting votes to either lower a line or the total budget, that budget goes right to referendum for the rest of the community to vote on. So that was that part of it. And then there's just minor language issues, as Eric was talking about, that are in the charter that really need to be fixed. was the first Charter Revision Commission I was on. I thought it was incredibly well run. Bob Hamburger did a great job. Carol Lee was on it, so anyone who sits there and says that the town clerk issue didn't get addressed by the town clerk, she may not vote for it, but that's why we do these processes, to give an opportunity for yes, no. Just like the last Charter Revision, I was a no vote. I lost. I didn't want the bifurcation of the budget because I think it creates problems within the community. It's us versus them with the Board of Education. I didn't want that. And I even voted to send it to referendum because that's what it's about. You send things to referendum and you let the community vote on it. So if the community of Andover wants to vote and votes on a bifurcation of the budget, then so be it. It wasn't what I wanted. And that's how I think these things should work. I just think it should go forward and be done. And you want to vote no on a topic? Vote no. You want to go out and campaign to vote no on a topic? Go out and campaign for it. I'm okay with that. And I'll live with the result. But I think it's being done for efficiency. This whole power grab thing, do you think anyone on this board is up here because they have power? None of us work for this community. None of us sit there and get paid. None of us sit there and get a thrill out of having power for something overall in this town. Let me tell you, that was ended when Eric stepped into the town administration position. So, as far as I'm concerned, it's about efficiency and it's about getting the most voice out of the most people so that they can vote things up or down appropriately. Next, Jeff, you want to?
Just to mention the ordinances. I mean, the only ordinances we pass are ordinances that we get emails about and suggestions to do. Like, one of the things we're working on right now is the dog issue at the ball fields. People are running their dogs, and the dogs are defecating on the ball fields. And people are emailing us wanting an ordinance, to something with teeth that we can go after these dog owners that are letting their dogs run on the ball field. So we're not gonna propose anything that's people don't want. And we're proposing what people email us and tell us what they wanna do. And those are the things that we're trying to do, so.
Yeah.
My thought after listening to everybody today is that I can see the ordinances going to referendum, but I would think maybe we should have, if we want to put forward an ordinance, anything for the 6 months up to an election or a referendum, we send them all to that referendum and have the townspeople vote on all of them instead of having to go through this petition thing. That's my thought.
There you go.
Scott?
All these things that we've been talking about tonight are all things that we've been through. We've been all on boards and the boards previous to this. All these are problems that we've come up with over the years that are finally getting straightened out. So that's why they're all, it's not some conspiracy, it's nothing to hurt anybody. Nobody here wants that. We all want to straighten things out to make the town move smoothly. That's all we want here. And I think they did a good job at it. It's a lot of, up and down. You gotta figure it all out. But we all did it for the betterment of the town.
Paul?
I think you all said what I was thinking. Actually, Jeff Murray brought up a good point about the ordinances. We're reading the Facebook posts, we're reading the emails, we're listening to our neighbors. We live in town too, so we don't want to pass something that's going to affect us negatively too. So I think Jeff just really summarized that.
I mean, we've gone to meetings, people have told us, like the thing about the ball fields. We've seen the Facebook posts, we've seen the emails, and it's just, people want us to do something. That's what we're gonna do. I mean, we haven't heard anything that people want to run their dogs on the ball field. It's just that people are letting their dogs just run wild down there.
I'm down there every day, getting people off that ball field. Every day. And it's the same people all the time, with 8 signs around the field.
Yep, all we wanna do is get some teeth to put the minor ordinance and define procedure for people doing, going against the ordinance and bringing their dogs on the ball field. We've got kids playing there. I don't think we want our kids running in piles of dog feces,
In this case, there will be no minor or major ordinance. It'll just be an ordinance. That's all we're trying to get to at this point, is put an ordinance for it. And I honestly believe that we went well outside of the normal scope of trying to allow people to petition for an ordinance to sit there and get that ordinance on a ballot. So I just sit there and I go, the petition process is in place. And I'm sorry, it's 50 signatures. If I felt strongly that a future Board of Selectmen did something that I absolutely disagreed with, I would be going to every one of you in this room and I would be saying, please sign this paper so it can go on the ballot. And it's not that hard. I'm sorry. Even if I don't want to vote yes or no, it could go on the ballot. And you could do that with every ordinance we put forward. You could get 50 signatures and it's going to go on the ballot. Or unless you believe that, hey, it's a reasonably good ordinance.
Can I ask a question about that? So, this is an obvious answer. How many Board of Selectmen members were on that committee?
I was the only one.
Okay. So the rest of the committee talked about the petition process and felt like it was a good thing to move forward to tonight. I'm just stating the obvious.
They all voted for it. I mean, and what we did is, and Shannon listened to that one meeting because I was the one in charge of the ordinance section of this. Every other member had a different section. It wasn't like we sat there and Jeff McGuire drove the entire issue. It was, everybody had an issue. Somebody had, the November election. Somebody had the town clerk issue. Somebody had the financial ramifications of the thing. And each member, he did a really good job. Did a very good job of doing it. My job was to sit there and go. And I went with everybody who had an issue as to, okay, if we do a petition, how would it work? And we extended the petition from 20 days to 45 days to 20 days within the 45 days until the mailer was received by the entire community outlining the ordinance. We were incredibly detailed. And to be really honest, the town attorney said I was crazy. Because he's like, it's only 20 days. I said, no. I said, it's the process that everybody has a chance to sit there and get 50 signatures. You can't get 50 signatures in 20 days. I am sorry. Our democracy is done. So.
I was looking here at 301, it says including but not limited to the authority to approve and enact, repeal and modify all ordinances after a public hearing, and also those powers enumerated in Form 2. So we would discuss an ordinance and then post that we're having a public hearing the next month, and so then people can come and express their opinion, so you know whether or not it's going to be a no from those people or a possible,
That's it.
okay.
That's
And
pretty
then-
much required by state law, that you have a public hearing before you enact an ordinance. You could probably do it in a charter and get rid of the public hearing, but nobody does. Everybody does.
Public hearing.
It's natural.
And Ann, just so you're clear, and everybody else is clear, we do that. The ordinance does not take effect until 45 days. So the way I envision this is, the Board of Selectmen has a meeting, that's 30 days later, we have a second meeting. So we're going to get feedback from a public hearing, we're going to get feedback at our second Board of Selectmen meeting. We don't have to put anything up. The Board of Selectmen can say no at any time to any ordinance that it wants. And the Board of Selectmen has the authority to repeal any ordinance at any time. It's not as if we're taking anything away from the public. You've elected us to do a job. We're sitting there trying to do the best job that we can, and then if you don't like what we're doing, well, you vote us out. But if you don't like what we're doing on an ordinance, you get 50 signatures, it goes on the ballot, and the entire town votes. It's simple, I'm just breaking it down simply, but that's what this is about. So,
And in the interim, it doesn't go into
yeah,
effect.
it does not go into effect.
And I believe, somebody said they got signatures that didn't count. There's a special form you have to get from the town clerk, is that correct?
That's right, the town clerk has the,
And we
she will know how to
So
do
they
it.
have to have a special form and make sure it's all
And we
details.
And we talked about that within the mailer that needs to go out to the community, to sit there and have on the mailer explanations of the petitioning process and what they need to do. The petition, a valid petition would be in the town clerk's office. It needs to be sat there and set up, and you go forward and do it, but I'm sorry, 50 signatures is not I mean, it's just me, but 50 signatures. Exactly, you'll get
You can send Dave to the transfer station and you can get 50 signatures in an hour.
So,
Registered voters.
That's good.
so,
Wait a minute.
anyway, so,
Yeah, right.
So,
so anyway, anybody else on the Board of Selectmen want to talk about any of the specific issues that were raised?
I have a question, but,
Go ahead, let's go.
so, I think it was brought up tonight that there was a section missing.
There's sections deleted all over the place in that chart.
Right, so I guess my general question is, if we want to move forward with this and we need to if we decide to fix that, how do we handle that?
Well, the only thing that we would be doing tonight is voting on the draft from the charter, committee. And then what would happen is, we would then create questions that would have to be submitted to the Secretary of State's office that would go on the ballot, so yes or no. So everybody would have the right to vote yes or vote no on any specific topic that is addressed. There'll probably be 6 or 7 that would end up being on the charter. Like the ordinance one would be one. If you don't want the ordinance one to go into effect, you vote no. If you want November elections to be there, you vote yes. I mean,
A point of order is that you don't have to vote on that exactly, you can make changes here this evening.
we can sit there and refer anything back to the Charter Revision Commission if we choose to.
Yep.
So that's what the board has the power to do. We either have the power to accept it in its entirety or push a portion of it back to the Charter Revision Commission because we believe it's a good idea.
If you do that, you'll have to do it pretty soon if you want to make the deadline in order to get it on the ballot. But you can't, you have enough time, because you would have to get, I would say your next meeting is, I believe, on the 11th, your next regular meeting. You would have to do that at that meeting, have a joint meeting with the Charter Revision Commission and discuss your differences, because this is their proposal.
Do we have to have, well, let's do the logistics. So let's sit there and say, Mrs. Hutchinson's 10% we want to remove. What do we need to do?
You would have to meet with the Charter Revision Commission at your next, invite them to your next Board of Selectmen meeting, have a joint meeting with them, and try to come to an agreement on that. And that probably wouldn't be too difficult. But, if that's the only question you have, it won't be too difficult at all, I don't think.
So we would have to have a special Charter Revision Commission meeting before the Board of Selectmen.
No, we did it that way last year, 2 years ago.
All right, and
Same
there's
thing, same process.
no requirement to come back to this group and do this all over again.
No.
Okay.
No,
Then,
the law only requires one public hearing
okay,
with the Board of Selectmen.
all right, then I would like to make a motion to accept all, the draft report in its entirety, with the exception of eliminating the 10% voting requirement for referendums.
I'll second that.
Discussion on anything else? All right, all those in favor? Aye. All right, so, just so everybody here understands, the questions will be drafted, right? After we get back with the Charter Revision Commission on the 10%, questions will be drafted. They'll be available for everybody to understand, and then you can campaign yes or no, up or down, related to all these items.
Will they put on the website?
They will, yeah.
They'll be ready before the meeting on the 11th.
Okay.
They'll be ready.
Now, what about the definition of minor versus now just ordinances? Because right now
We
there's,
may change that in accordance with one of the sections that will be minor language changes, because that'll be an up or down, and those minor language changes will be a little bit more detailed that you
Well,
probably.
that impacts, that section impacts the issue of the ordinance, of how we do ordinances, so it is included in that. Let me say something about that, Catherine, and Scott. I realize, I'm as obsessive compulsive as anybody, believe me, and I realize that that's a definition section. It's no longer a definition if minor ordinance is taken out of there. But to insist that it not stay there the way it's written is being overly obsessive compulsive. Because sooner or later that will disappear from the charter, and it will only be a matter of history. The town clerk's office has every charter that's ever been done
Right.
in there, you can, the history, it's important to preserve the history. But I think the best way to address that issue of the minor ordinances is the way that it's written. Even though it's not a definition anymore, it was, and it's just being removed. So it's telling you what's being done with it.
So you're saying it'll just say, wherever it says minor, it'll just say ordinances?
That's right.
Okay.
There'll be, because the question, Catherine, of deciding what is a minor ordinance and what is not,
Right, okay.
what it comes down to is so generally stated that it comes down to me, because I'm the town attorney, and I say, okay, I think it's minor, all right? I'd rather not do that. I'd rather just have ordinances and have them all acted on the same as any other ordinance.
It usually comes down to money and fines.
I mean, there are some that are obviously minor, but sometimes it's a close call.
Okay.
Anyone else have anything before we move on? Okay, so we're gonna move on to item 4, public speak. Anyone
Did you
else?
take a vote, did you?
Excuse me?
Did you take a vote on that?
We did, it was 5-0. Marcy?
The one thing, is, I gotta admit that the thought of getting signatures, even if it's 50, it may seem like it's not a lot, but I'm sitting here thinking, if I gotta get 50 signatures, that's gonna take a lot, because I could take an hour and talk to 4 people, you know, so if there's a way to make that easier, maybe even online, you know, something on the website, I don't know, question, I don't know, just something that's easier.
Understood. Julie?
Erica talked about certain items. He mentioned sections 304G and 702G. We use the term reasonable governance. It seemed to make a lot of sense to me that the kind of thing he was talking about should be included in whatever you come back again for voting on. And we all know what those things is.
So just so you understand, you want the
I'm not sure
questions,
I know what all of them are, but you mentioned,
you want the questions written in such a way to approach what Eric told us.
well, and to include what he suggested as,
They're all in here.
all right.
Uh,
Yeah, well, that's right.
You
because
can,
that's
the
what
question will be
304
written in more general terms, but it will make
Yeah.
sure that, Julia, that it encompasses all of those issues about thresholds.
Sure.
Yeah,
Just
he
real quickly.
had a good idea of what should be in there.
Thank you. Shannon?
Both Scott and I have pointed out to the commission just a bunch of things, minor changes, as you said, that need to be made to make the charter,
Flow better.
well, not just that, comport with its actual language. It refers to provisions that don't exist anymore and whatnot. How might those be addressed? Would they be put to a question, or it probably would be better if the Board of Selectmen, I don't know, passes on those so that they don't even have to be addressed? It's
If they're cosmetic, they can be handled.
by the Board of Selectmen, right?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
We'll sit there and
So I'll
have.
tell you about those, right?
Shannon,
Yes, sir.
in my mind, there's one question that's a minor language question.
Yep.
And that would fall in under the minor
Great.
language.
Thank you.
Just, I can't speak for Don Denley, and I certainly don't want to, but from my perspective, Power Grab was not individual, it was an institutional thing. It's saying that the Board of Selectmen, as an institution, is taking authority that is now the town meeting. It's not meant at all personally to anyone here.
I took it personally.
I know that.
Me too.
I would just like to comment that the term minor ordinance that was used initially, it would appear that that was an intention not to include all ordinances. The removal of the word minor will now include all ordinances.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. All right, thank you very much. everyone.